here's another way to utilize those fresh, yummy garden tomatoes that just keep coming in. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this. I have got about 7 medium-sized tomatoes, small to medium-sized tomatoes, and I'm showing you my knife here. This is a tomato knife, like to cut tomatoes with. It's wonderful. It slices them just perfectly. My little mama gave us this knife, and honestly, it's one of my favorite knives. Okay, let's go ahead and cut these tomatoes in slices if you're following along. And then we are going to place those tomatoes in a colander as we go. And then once you've sliced all the tomatoes, you've got them in your colander, then I like to take a paper towel, or you can use a cheesecloth, and just mash them, because you want to get as much juice out of these tomatoes that you possibly can, or your pie is going to end up soupy, which is fine. I mean, it's still edible, but it's just not pleasant to the eye. And if you're going to take a pie somewhere to an event, a tomato pie, I have found, I hate to say it, but those greenhouse tomatoes you buy at the store make a picture perfect tomato pie. And they taste really good too. But y'all, there's nothing like a homegrown tomato. But again, you do want to try to get all the juice out of those homegrown tomatoes that you possibly can. Now we are going to need some cheese, and I like to grate my own cheese. I have got some mozzarella. This is a whole 8-ounce package of mozzarella cheese. And if you want to purchase yours already shredded, you can do that as well. The only drawback to that is that you are getting additives in that cheese. But I get it. It's quicker, it's easier, and you just do what you got to do. But do keep in mind that this is healthier. Okay, let's go ahead and finish up this cheese, and now we are going to throw together this yummy tomato pie. And I like to set aside about a half a cup of that cheese to put on top, because if I don't, I'll forget and I'll use it all. And then when you get to the end of the pie, you don't have any cheese to top it with. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some mayo. And I've got some Duke's mayo here. It doesn't matter what brand you use. I do like Duke's though. So I'm going to add about a half a cup of mayo. Let's mix that together. Add about a half a cup of softened and diced onions. And the way that I do this is I just go ahead and dice that onion, and then I put it in the microwave. And once it has softened up, it amounts to about a half a cup. If you're someone who doesn't like onions, and I totally get that, and maybe it's the texture, you can always put these in one of those little bullets and grind it up and puree it, or you can always just use onion powder. But the onion makes this taste so good, y'all. By this time, your pie crust should be unthawed, and you do want to make sure your pie crust is unthawed. And I like to go ahead and take my fork and just put some holes in that pie crust so that your pie crust can breathe and will not puff up on you while it's baking. And I do know that you seasoned cooks know to do this, but we do need to keep in mind that we have some new cooks around. Okay, once I've got my pie crust ready, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay the tomatoes in here. And I'm filling this one really full, lots of tomatoes. We are going to layer this, so once you have your first layer of tomatoes, then you're going to put your mixture on top of that. I'm going to do 3 layers, so I'm going to divide my mixture into 3 layers. And here we go with the tomatoes, but I forgot something, y'all. I absolutely forgot something on that first layer. Can you guess what I forgot? Yes, the oregano. I mean, you can't have a tomato pie in my book without the oregano, and I use lots of it. I usually will put about a teaspoon in each layer. And that's what I did. So I went back and I added about a teaspoon and a half on that second layer and a pinch of basil, or maybe two. It just depends. I just measure with love, y'all. But you don't want a lot of basil, much more oregano than basil. On each layer, I typically put tomatoes, my mixture, about a teaspoon of oregano, and a couple of pinches of basil. I did have a few slices of tomatoes left over, but don't worry about that, y'all. I ate those tomatoes and they were so good. I can eat whole tomatoes. I am that person. Once you finish that last layer, then we're going to take that cheese that we set aside and just sprinkle that right on top. And then we're going to put this in the oven on 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. And I like to put another pie pan on top so that I don't burn my crust. And 30 minutes later, voila. These are so good. We even make these in the winter time. And you can also put ham, you can put bacon, or even pepperoni in these tomato pies.